Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to ASDC's Thursday Train to Win webinar. Today's topic is DNC Technology Updates, and so we will have a representative from their team who will introduce himself shortly, talk to you a bit about what's happening in terms of the technology landscape for 2014 and what are some tools and some opportunities that state parties can take advantage of to advance their own programs and data and tech-related items. So we're really excited about the webinar today, but before we dive in, I just want to remind you of a few housekeeping items. The first is that as an attendee to today's webinar, you're in listen-only mode, and so if you have a question, you can click the Raise My Hand icon on your GoToMeeting module. You'll see it modeled for you there on your screen, or you can type into the questions box, and we'll make sure that at the designated time for questions that we get your questions read out and answered for the group. So do feel free to ask questions over the course of the webinar using the Raise My Hand icon, or you can type your questions in the questions box. Additionally, if you are tracking with us on social media, which we hope that you will, and tweet about how great today's webinar is, you can tweet at them chairs, and our hashtag's not listed there, but it is hashtag train, the number 2, and win. You can tweet and make mention of the ASDC using those Twitter mentions at the bottom of your screen. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jacob from DNC's technology team, and he's going to talk to you about some of the advances and opportunities in technology this year.
There we go. Hey everybody, this is Jacob Winowich. I am the new Data Services Manager, Regional Data Services Manager within the Data Services Department at the DNC. And some of the topics I'm going to cover today are recent changes at the DNC Data Services, acquisitions, what is a voter file, election year date planning, campaign data and technology support, and program planning using data. I know a lot of this is going to be a bit of a review, but maybe there's some new chairs and EDs, and so this should help guide some of your decision making in the coming year. So, first topic is this is the new Data Services desk regions. Nikki Norton, who was here before me, is no longer with us, and so we took that opportunity to reshuffle the deck in terms of regions. So I'm new, and it's the Central region, and Mark Taylor, who is mainly focused on California, but also a little bit of Oregon, Washington, and Hawaii, is out there in-state in that time zone, so he's a little bit more easier to get a hold of. We were going to name these after rap artists, sort of like Tupac and Biggie Smalls, but there's not really a good rapper for the Central Time Zone. So if you have any better ideas, please do raise your hand towards the end of the presentation today. So, real quick, sorry if you've heard this before, but this is what we do, is we sort of real quickly run through what is the voter file and the process, how it gets into Vote Builder or into the voter file. That tabling that you've done time and time again at college campuses and farmers markets and stuff like that, it actually does pay off. It goes from that table to the local clerk who enters it into a table that the state Secretary of State collects, and that that state parties ultimately end up buying. It includes the registration date, their name, their address, sometimes their phone number, sometimes their party registration. So then we, or the state party, buys this file and ensures that it's actually the file that they purchased and sends it off to the DNC, where we standardize it for voting history and voting method. They send it to us via file share. We also standardize the mailing address so that it actually gets to where you guys want it to go if you're sending a piece of mail. Real quick, some of the other things that we do during the voter file standardization process is we add those secondary phones. We go and purchase those from Target Smart, add them back to the voter file. We also try to deal with those awkward phone calls that everybody's had calling voters and remove the deceased individuals. But one of the more popular things that we do is we geocode the whole entire file so that those cool turf cutting maps actually work, and those maps that you hand out to volunteers when they're going door knocking actually work, that they actually represent individual voters and individual houses. So some of the additional enhancements that we provide at the DNC are things like license lists, permit holders. One of the more interesting things that we've done is purchased or been handed pet licensees lists and match that up to the voter file so that we can see where actual pet owners are, and interesting things like that. If you have a list or a need for something like that, be sure to reach out to your data desk so that we can help you with the acquisition process of that, but also adding it to the vote for file in the correct manner. So I'm done with this first thing, but it's always good to go back and review the process. The VFM or the state party acquires that voter file. We understand that sometimes this happens on a monthly basis, bi-monthly, quarterly basis, and sometimes it's really cheap, and sometimes, I think for New Hampshire's example, it costs about what I paid for my very first car. So you guys purchase it, we deliver it to the DNC, we enhance it with phone numbers, geocodes, those types of things, and then we send it off to VAN where it gets distributed in Vote Builder so that it's usable by your candidates. So election year planning. Things we're going to talk about on these next couple of slides is what should you be hearing from your voter file managers, things that they should be doing, such as voter file updates, polling locations, updates, EV and absentee information. So, next slide. We set this schedule up every December. You've probably seen it if you were there in December for the actual updating timetable. We ask you if there are changes that you need to be made to the purchasing schedule for the voter file, please contact your data desk. We can make changes to the schedule that you made in December. But we ask you to keep in mind the registration deadlines and when the election history will actually be available. For example, in West Virginia, you would think that the day after they do the canvass, the data would be available to purchase by the state party. That is not true. It sometimes can take up to months to make sure that the county clerks have entered in the election history and that it's able to be purchased by state parties. You might be asking yourself, well, I don't remember the schedule that I set up in December. We have this neat thing called Data Portal. It will show you the current production schedule and the schedule that you laid out. I just want to point out a few things on this slide here to relate back to the other one. In West Virginia, we purchased the file at the beginning of the new year, and it's been completed. And then we purchased it before the primary, about a month before the primary, after the registration deadline, so that the voter file would have all eligible voters for the primary. You'll see that, again, that they do it again in, what is that, August? So that gives enough time for the state to collect the history from the primary and allows the state to purchase, the state party to purchase the file. And then you'll see that they do one in October, and that's the day after or around the day after that the registration deadline is for the general election. So when altering your schedule or setting your schedule for your voter file purchasing, just look at the election calendar and know whereabouts, the deadlines for registration cutoffs are, and when would be a good time to make sure you actually collect the voting history that you want. So polling locations. Let's begin here. You would think the Secretary of State's office would be responsible for collecting polling locations. More times than not, this falls upon the county clerks. So in West Virginia, it's the county clerks. In Texas, it's the county clerks. In Texas, they have something like 255 counties, so it's a huge lift to do to call through those. But for example, in New Mexico, the Secretary of State keeps on this. So just keep that in mind when setting out to update your polling locations. This process of updating in Vote Builder can be done in van, all at once or at the individual level. But what I tell voter file managers every day is, go and meet the person at the county clerk and or the Secretary of State's office and put a face with a name, so you're dealing as a relationship when requesting these polling locations. As a former executive director, this was one of the things that I would always get phone calls about, is polling locations being wrong in Vote Builder. It's easy to do, and it's something that you can do in the summer months, and very few will change over the summer months. Also, just what FYI, moving on from polling locations, is we're going to be bringing back the Where Do I Vote tool this year, the wheredoivote.com. The reason why it's important to make sure that your polling locations are right in van is because we pull all the polling locations from van to populate and to give the information this website needs. So if they're wrong on your voter file, they're going to be wrong on the website too. So all polling location information originates from Vote Builder. So if your VFM isn't collecting that information already, isn't working towards getting that in, it's going to be a problem. Or if you're a VFM, start doing this right now. So now early voting locations. This has to be done through the DNC. There's no tool within Vote Builder to update early voting locations. We need one master file for the state by county. Some of the things that we need, as you can see on the screen, is the location name, the location address, the hours. If there's any weird exceptions, if they're closed for lunches on Thursday, stuff like that, we need to know that information. The Where Do I Vote tool will have some early voting information in it, and the information that populates that website will also be coming from Vote Builder. In order to have these locations within Vote Builder for the purpose of virtual phone banks or volunteer phone calls that they're giving, you need to have them geocoded so that the closest early voting location will be assigned to the voter, so that when you pick up that phone and call that voter and say, hey, the closest early voting location is, you can say that with some confidence because it's been geocoded. We are offering trainings right now to voter file managers, and we'd be happy to jump on the phone with you guys and talk to you about this a little bit longer. So I'm going to hit the next slide. This is sort of, everybody knows this, but we be sure to mention it because it always seems that we have to talk to somebody about it once a year. Vote Builder can chase ballots. If you request from your Secretary of State or your election authority when the person requested the ballot, when the ballot was mailed, when it was returned, and whether or not they early voted, there is a way, and your voter file manager knows how, to upload that information into the system so that the campaigns that you're servicing, the campaigns that you're helping, can get on the phone and chase those ballots every day. But then also stop when they no longer need to. This is, again, one of those perfect situations where either you or your chair or the voter file manager should go and sit down with the election authority, not just the Secretary of State or the county clerk, but the actual guy or girl with glasses sitting behind the computer, pulling the lists. It's always better to, in these situations, know the person's face and be an actual person as opposed to a phone number and email address, because they're far more likely to give you what you want and how you want it if they actually know you as opposed to just being an email address. So campaign data and technology support offered by the Secretary or DNC Services Department. These next few slides are a little self-explanatory, but I might as well mention them. We will do supplemental voting history. We typically only load even year primary and general elections, but if you have a municipal or a special election, in West Virginia it was the 2011 special election for governor, if you tell us at the DNC, we will of course make sure that that gets into the voter file, as long as it's come from an official source. Precinct changes are constantly going on within your state. We can only update precincts once every full state voter file update. So if you know your state is having some precinct changes and would like Vote Builder to reflect that, please get in contact with your data desk, and we can, of course, once you purchase the full file, or if you need to do an out-of-schedule voter file update, we can make sure that those precincts get up to date. So random district appends. So say like you have a school board or a city council race that you're paying close attention, we can also add those to the voter file. We're working with Nevada right now to make sure that they place the city council districts in Reno are reflected in Vote Builder. We just need it from an official source as to what precincts equal what districts. This is a new one and should probably cause some questions towards the end here. We're beginning to offer on your second voter file update voting age population data, or VAT data. These are people that we know are over the age of 18, are eligible to vote, and live in the district. And so there's no more tabling needing to be done. You can actually print lists from Vote Builder now and go and knock on doors and register actual people to vote. And so I know Alaska is thinking about using stuff like this. I know Colorado is thinking about using stuff like this because they know if they register X amount of Democrats, then we can keep the majority in the United States Senate. And so if you're a voter file manager or if you're an ED that would like to talk about how to best use this data, please give us a call at the DNC Data Services Department. We'd happily be able to show you where in Vote Builder to access it and how to best use this data. So this is the other really cool, exciting thing that we're offering now, free of charge to voter file managers and state parties. It's this Target Smart automation process. So we all have those really nice membership lists and those really nice volunteer Excel spreadsheets that we've received over the years, but we've never actually known what to do with them after we've been handed them. We can now, with this Target Smart tool, match that back to the voter file free of charge to you and have it produce Vote Builder IDs so that you can go and add this back to Vote Builder and tag these people from 10 years ago or 2 years ago in the voter file as volunteers. I really like this tool because it's the reason I learned Access. And this makes it so much simpler. Your voter file managers should know how to do this. If they don't, we're happy to sit down. It's a really easy process to take these lists and match them up back up to the voter file and make it so that those Excel spreadsheets and sign-in sheets from years ago actually do something, are actually usable. I mentioned geocoding earlier of voter file or early voting locations. Part of this tool also will geocode. It's a hip new term. It's basically adding the latitude and longitude to every single location, so it's easier to look up on a Google Maps or MapQuest. So this next slide, I know it's a ton of words on a screen, and it might not mean a lot to everybody here. The DNC is continually providing scores and models to state parties, and we've provided several this year in the year of 2014. They'll a likely voter model, a likely national support model, but then also national models for who watches broadcast TV, who has a cable subscription, and who has a satellite subscription. These are things that we continue to offer, and you should be able to see them. Your state voter file managers have all the documentation for this and can explain this a little bit further. This list will continue to grow as we get closer to Election Day, and this is the cutting edge of how to target voters in the future. Some of the other scores that still are available from 2012 and 2013 are, of course, the Obama support models, the ASDC's National Hispanic Model, and a few other options like national climate change, gun owner, likely gun owners, and as you can see on the list, a pretty big long list. We have all the documentation to explain how the best practices for using these types of scores, and are happy to share that with you guys. There was a little bit of confusion a week ago. We sent out an email to EDs and voter file managers saying that we were going to turn off some scores. We have done that, but they were like 2008, 2010 scores that we knew were no longer true and just were old and outdated. Scores are a limited system resource, and so Van had asked us to turn some stuff off. If one of those scores you needed and have now realizing or is no longer there, please just get in contact with us and we'll see what we can do to help you out there. So here's another big slide with lots of words. I'm sorry for doing this. One of the first things I want to point out is if you're building a state-specific score or for the national file or for your voter file, say like you're looking for, throwing out a name, Wendy Davis for governor, or your Senate candidate wants a support score. We are happy to provide the analytics files here at the DNC to your chosen provider or your chosen contractor that will provide you with that score, but then also we're happy to work with them to make sure that it gets into the voter file. One of the things that we'll need from you guys is the name of the score, what committees should be shared with it, those types of things. Going back to the voter analytics file, we are also happy to provide this to your voter file manager. We're happy to train them on the SQL that they will need to use this file, this information. This is sort of the back end, is the simple way to explain it. The back end of Vote Builder. It's what informs a lot of the decisions that you see, or a lot of the information you see within Vote Builder. This is the back end of it, or a mirror image of it, and has a lot more information assigned to it. Andrew Brown a few weeks ago sent out a user agreement for this. If you have signed that and we have it in your possession, we're happy to begin the process of training whoever the ED or state chair deems necessary. Most of the time it's the voter file manager on how to use this new database that we're offering. So just real quick, other tools. I'm trying to do this as quick as I possibly can and coming up on 30 minutes. I've talked about the list matching account that we now provide. We also have a van suggestion drop box. If there are issues and concerns that you have with Vote Builder, say you don't like the new create a list format, or think the login process is a little too long, you can send suggestions to us and we'll share those with Vote Builder Van. We also now offer a site to do large-scale file sharing. Whoop-de-doo. Not only is it a cool name, but it's also, we'll take, for example, those sheets of labels that you have and turn them into an actual Excel spreadsheet. That's another one of the tools that we're happy to provide to state parties. We have a number of listservs so that voter file managers and EDs can continue to share ideas about technology, and also a training website will teach, basic Vote Builder use and advanced database management. Under DNC tools, I want to point out a few things. The call tool is still available. One of the big complaints was that it either came in a Barack Obama skin and or a Democratic National Committee skin. We are beginning to phase that out and have Vote Builder or Van provide that to you, and it should be coming available in the coming weeks and months, and it will be customizable, and you'll be able to make it look the way you want it to. I Will Vote is on that list. It's in production, and by production I mean it's with the legal department right now, and they're going over some of the legal concerns with it. And basically what that tool will do is be able to track people that have pledged to vote within your state. So that will be something we'll be talking about in the coming weeks and months. And then my boss wanted me to make sure that I point out Explore. It's a new tool that we're beginning to use here at the DNC that makes mapping of where your support is or where a candidate's potential support is versus the amount of contacts they've made in that certain region of your state. It makes it more accessible. It makes it more than just words on a page. And we're slowly rolling that out and working out the bugs now. So, other trainings that we offer on the regular basis to those EDs, I spend about 2 hours, 3 hours every single day with somebody's voter file manager, and all my partners in the office, Oliver and Mark, do about the same thing. We are happy to spend an hour, if we don't already, with your voter file manager or the person handling the data, and talk about lots of the things here. Processing volunteers down to SQL, the acquisition process, and VLOOKUP and pivot tables, along with this Target Smart tool that I spent a lot of time talking about, and Whoop-de-doo. So with that, I think I have one more slide. This is something that we're constantly talking about, is how to report problems within Vote Builder. If it's a tech problem, the database isn't operating the way it should, that is a van problem. If it's a data problem, as in the person that is populating the 5th district in Maine doesn't actually live on that side of the state, lives on the opposite side of the state, that's a DNC problem. And the support request sort of hierarchy should go from the campaigns should kick it to the state voter file manager or whoever the state administrator is for Van, and then go to the DNC data desk or Van. It's sort of a neat way of keeping this stuff together in one place and making sure that there is a way to follow through and update this information. So if you have a tech problem within Vote Builder, it's a Van issue. If it's a data problem, it's a DNC issue. And we're happy to troubleshoot all of those and go through that. So I think I hit the 30-minute mark on the dot. And here's my contact information. And if I didn't bore you all to death and you have some questions, I'm happy to stand for them.
Great. Thanks, Jacob. And again, as a reminder, if you have a question, you're welcome to type them into the questions box, or you can click the raise my hand icon and we will be sure to get you unmuted. There was a hand raised here, and that hand was Grace Peck. Okay, I think Grace put her hand down, so she may not have had a question. Just want to take an opportunity while we're waiting on folks who may have questions, just to remind you that a lot of the data services support that the DNC technology team provides is really imperative to getting your voter file managers, whether they're seasoned voter file managers or data directors, or whether they're folks who are new, really do take advantage of their tools, because they do provide a lot of really specialized training when it comes to a lot of the technical tools that that you need to keep your state party on the cutting edge of technology. So when you get information from them, when you get notifications from them, do take advantage of those. There's a question of whether they can get a copy of the user agreement that was referenced and sent by Andrew.
Yeah, and who asked that?
And that was Matt. And Matt, we will make sure that we get that information to you. The second question, I'm sorry, did you have a follow-up to that? Okay, fantastic. We will make sure that we get that to you, Matt. Second question was, will you re-explain the Whoop-de-Doop tool and kind of what its functionality is?
Yeah, so Whoop-de-Doop is a program that can standardize. I'm trying to explain this in such a way that it won't go over everybody's head. It's a way of standardizing data that you've received. And so it will take, say, maybe a Word document that has, that is in the format of address labels, and turn that into an actual Excel spreadsheet so that it's usable in the future. The easiest way to explain it is the data standardization program. And it makes it so that the different formats that you receive on a daily basis are in one format and one format only. So I think I answered Kay's question. If you want to receive training or think somebody within your state party needs to receive training, Brett, who wrote the program, is happy to spend hours on the phone, and it's really cool. It's a life-saving program that we're happy to offer.
Awesome. So the support is there if there are people out there interested in learning more about that. So thanks for your question, Kay. So while we're waiting for any last questions that may come up, again, you have Jacob's contact information there in case there were parts of the presentation that you may not have understood, or tools that you may want to get more training on. The support is there for that. I do want to remind you about the evaluations that we have for our training today. We want to make sure that we get your feedback and what you thought of today's webinar. Additionally, we want to get your ideas for any upcoming webinars or things that you've thought about and would like additional training on. Please do fill that out in your evaluations that will come to your inbox shortly after our webinar wraps. Additionally, if you have questions beyond today's presentation about training in general, or you'd like additional resources or support, my contact information is there, my phone number, as well as my email address, so you can feel free to shoot me a line, and I'm happy to help connect you with the person who has the answers or get the answers for you. So seeing no additional questions in our questions box, I want to take an opportunity to thank Jacob from DNC's Data Services team for his time and his presentation today talking about technology tools, and I hope everyone will take advantage of the great information in this program. Just as a reminder, as we close, next Thursday we'll see many of you in Annapolis for our June ASDC meeting, and so for that reason we will not have a Thursday webinar, but we will see you on the web again Thursday, June the 12th, and we'll resume our regularly scheduled Train to Win webinar. So For those of you who we will not see in Annapolis this next Thursday, we will see you again at our next Train to Win webinar on Thursday, June the 12th. Thanks so much and have a great day.
And there we're done.
Yay!
How'd I do?